It's the book of matter of fact, let me get Habakkuk. Book of Habakkuk chapter 2. Salakia, I'm kind of, this is spirit though. This is the last minute I thought of Habakkuk. It's the book of Habakkuk chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 3, and it reads, "For the vision is yet for a appointed time. The vision represents the prophecy, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come and will not tarry." I want to start off by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to Call Loyim La Yahweh, Shem Yahushai, by Hashem. Hakodash, and say double honors to the elders and to the apostles that I learned this truth from. Peace and salutations to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives, as well as the freedom to do so now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and Aqua out there listening and learning. Lord willingly, this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad and in the land of other nations appearing like the other nations, but subscribe to his truth. To you, I say shalom. So, brother, y'all, what's up? Coming at you with another lesson through the spirit and through the power of Yahweh. By Hashem Yahushai, Yahweh meaning he is, he exists, or he to be. By Hashem, by his and Haz does Shem his name. Yahweh Shai meaning he saves, or he delivered. True names of the Most High God and his Son, who these people ignorantly call God and Jesus Christ, whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh. By Hashem Yahushai. This lesson is inspired by this video. So I didn't watch the video, but it's the spirit because I actually listened to the guy Andre Jink or whatever. I mean, I know I'm probably butchering his name, but you know, he's I don't even think he's an economist. He just knows about the economy. You know, so a few people that say that they're not economists because again, it's like if you ever went to housing court, you know, they can't really give you actual advice about, you know, certain things because if the advice you get from them, they give you the wrong advice, you can sue them. So you know, so a lot of people to protect themselves don't call themselves such and such and such and such, you know what I mean? But anyhow, I was watching Andre Jink. I think that was like last Saturday it was last Friday actually. I had to come to work, and I was listening to that, and he was going into pretty much this 1946 option, and pretty much how when you go into how Japan's economy was set up, and I think I made mention of it in a video because I think the Philippines or Korea, either North Korea or South Korea, pretty much their economy is set up pretty much like on these stock options, but it's not. It's kind of like what Babylon the Great doing. You know, they make you purchase all these stocks that pretty much ain't doing. You know, like they're not outperforming. You know what I mean? But you know, because it's all rigged. It's all a rigged market. You know what I mean? To keep the economy going, they sell you shit that may crash. You know, it's pretty much like what they doing with Elon Musk and you know. How they making a lot of these 401ks and these retirement plan by these stock auctions, you know. So it says Japan launches the 1946 option and Wall Street is terrified because pretty much Japan, I think, is like the highest foreign owner of our debt, if I'm not mistaken. So I thought I just had this shit. So okay, here we go. Here it says, okay, so come on, man. It says Japan's 1946 option, what will happen to the United States if Japan executes the 1946 option? Because it's the reason why it's named 1946 is because pretty much like the Great Depression, you know, which I forgot exactly when the Great Depression was that like 1929 or something like that, but pretty much it was a financial reset, right? Well, they had one too. You know, so pretty much that's why it's called the 1946 option. It says a viral economic theory and geopolitical concept popularized in 2026 regarding Japan's modern debt crisis. The United States would experience an immediate severe financial shock, including a massive liquidity crunch, surging interest rates, and a political collapse of the U.S. bond market. And I did a lesson about how the bond market is collapsing. So it's spiritual because I was just thinking, you know, about this financial crash. You know, again, when you go into the book of come on, I'm tired. Salakia. Zephaniah chapter 1 and verse I'm gonna start at verse 9, and it reads, "In the same day also will I punish all those that leap on the threshold, which fill their master's houses with violence and deceit. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, that there shall be a noise of a cry from the fish gate." which is the markets, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. And hills represent governments, and you got mountains and hills. Mountains representing large governments, and hills representing lower governments. But pretty much this great crashing is pretty much going into Babylon the Great's the stock market crashing. And if you pay attention, the different moves that DJ Trump makes affects the stock market. Very much so. I think he gets off on it to a degree, because again, they know, certain moves he makes actually like rallies or actually slows it down. You got to think about it. Like, again, these moves he's doing in the Middle East, pretty much with Iran, again, like, what he has done is pretty much crippled the markets, because again, we're not getting oil. These oil companies are making record profits, and he's buddies with the oil companies. But then, remember when Bush Jr. did the same shit? He played stupid. Bush Jr., that's what made him so smooth at what he did. Just like Biden did the same shit. Biden played stupid at the end of this term. Let the people all, over the borders, and he was now walking off into the distance, walking off into the forest, and now he's he got these memoirs, and he pretty much a third degree Prince Hall Mason, and all the they just playing in your face again. It says, how ye inhabitants of Maktesh, for all the merchants people are cut down, all they that bear silver are cut off. Because again, the money system's gonna fail. It tells you that in the book of Ezekiel chapter 7. It says they shall cast their gold and silver in the streets, because those things aren't really worth value if you can't purchase what you need with them. You know what I mean? Again, in certain times, a gun or a weapon would be, if you watch that movie Platform, it showed you that, which was spiritual about Platform. I remember the young brother was talking about that. He was like, when you go into that book that the dude was reading, that book represented the Bible. But, everybody else was bringing guns and knives and, bringing, weapons, His weapon was the scriptures, Verse 12, and it shall come to pass at that time that I will search Jerusalem with candles and punish the men that are settled on their leaves, that say in their heart, the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shah will not do good, neither will he do evil. And the Lord is doing evil right now. We are in bad times. Evil is a compound word. Eve meaning time, ill meaning bad. And if you don't think you're in bad times, I just did a lesson of that female homestead journey, whatever. Again, you got people. Dude said he's an operating engineer in the state of Ohio. I know down south the wages are different. My people's moved down south, so they work for the city government and whatnot down there. And I know they took a pay cut from up here to go down there, but because of the price of living is so totally different, he owned Lakers and land out there, but he's not making the same wage. Because again, the price of living is different. That's why certain places you can survive off of $15. You go to California, $15, you're going to be homeless. You know what I mean? New York, $15, you're going to be homeless. A 1-bedroom room in New York be $1,500, So going back into the whole, it says, the United States would experience an immediate severe financial shock, including a massive liquidity crunch, surging interest rates, and the political collapse of the U.S. bond market. The term refers to a hypothetical economic nuclear option where Japan radically prints money. So basically, in order to save their currency, they're going to affect our currency. Because again, like I said, and that's when they talk about how all those bonds and those dollars going to go back to Babylon the Great, and that's where you're going to get your hyperinflation. It says Japan radically prints money, resets its banking system, or dumps its foreign assets to save its own economy, mirroring the hyperinflation financial reset it went through under U.S. occupation in 1946. Because Japan is the largest foreign holder of U.S. government debt, its survival choices directly dictate the financial stability of the United States. It says the collapse of the U.S. bond market. Japan holds over $1.1 trillion in the U.S. treasuries. If Japan's government or the Bank of Japan is forced to liquidate these assets to interject liquidity into its own failing system, a massive wave of U.S. debt will flood the global market. With fewer buyers capable of absorbing over $1 trillion in bonds, the value of U.S. treasuries would plummet. And again, you got a lot of these foreign governments understanding that, and that's why you had like China and Russia pretty much heavily invest in gold. You know, you had Moab or China heavily invest in silver. You know, what was that just during, like when silver reached its peak? I think silver was at like $120 at one point in time, and now it's down to like, I think I want to say 60, which is still good for those that got in on it. Maybe, I think I start investing, I want to say like maybe 2022. Might have been a little bit earlier than that. No, it was about like 2022. It was when I got my children. So, yeah. It says, to attract new investors to buy its debt after a massive Japanese sell-off, the U.S. Federal Reserve would be forced to aggressively raise interest rates. This will quickly trickle down into the domestic economy, resulting in surging mortgage rates, prohibitive borrowing costs, exploding national debt servicing costs, forcing the U.S. government to spend more on paying interest than on infrastructure or defense. And they already can't afford to buy the missiles and weapons that they so desperately calling for in order to fight this war that this man started. I mean, again, it don't make no sense, but at the same time, it's a, just like how they just did with the Fauci and the whole, like pretty much accepting the fact that this man killed, you would think somebody just do like, I forgot the name of that lady that pretty much, it was a guy that raped her daughter, and she came into the courtroom and pretty much just took him out. And the thing is this, I don't know if they had the infrared technology, back then, but I think you got patted down, especially like somebody like her. So it's like they set that up like he was a sacrifice, which, again, you make you think of, what's that dude, Fidel Castro? Is that his name? The dude that pretty much kidnapped the girl here. He had kidnapped like 3 girls, and pretty much he had a baby with one. Her name was Amanda something. And pretty much when, pretty much the news station here gave her own little like segment on the station. Like that was her reward. But more than, I think he worked for like the city or for the school system, So he ended up knowing some of the girls pretty much that he had kidnapped because they was like friends to his daughter. It was some demonic shit for real. So I'm gonna end it with this. It's the book of Genesis chapter 47. And pretty much the point is verse 15, and it reads, I'm going to start in verse 14, and it reads, and Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought, and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. This is when Joseph was set up as the viceroy, like second in command of Egypt for the Pharaoh. And it says, verse 15, the point, and when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph, said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence, for the money faileth. So pretty much that's the scenario that they're recreating now. Pretty much they trying to put everybody in a desperate state. So basically you're going to beg for help from them, and that's when they're going to have you. That's why it's going to be so important to be locked in with Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So I have to, in the lesson there, Lord willing, you got some kind of edification out of it. If you're so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, Seminole Indian, West Indian, or Haitian, I implore you to come back to the laws, statutes, and commandments of your power, whose true name in the Paleo-Hebrew is Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, or you will be destroyed. And with that, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Call Loyam La Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim, Rachah, Godash, the honors to the elders. And Shalom, peace and salutations to Akim across the 4 corners, believing in his truth and pushing his word with faith and with sincerity. Till next time, Lord willingly, Shalom, Shalom, Kwam Yasharallah, and Mwakhlababal.